Hello and welcome to the SENB Daily Brief for Thursday, November 13th, 2025. Your late day market detox after a morning full of charts, chaos, and questionable policy decisions. I'm SENB, and today we've got actual news to break down because everything dropped early this morning while you're commuting, caffeinating, or attempting to remember your Coinbase password. First, CPI finally landed, yes, despite the shutdown drama. The Bureau of Labor Statistics managed to push out the October numbers, and markets immediately freaked out, calmed down, freaked out again, and then pretended everything was fine. We'll unpack the whole mess in a minute. And in political theater news, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history is officially over. President Trump signed the funding bill late last night, with Republicans calling it a win and Democrats calling it not technically a loss, depending on how you define losing. Both sides are spinning so fast you could power a small wind farm. And don't worry, we're roasting everybody today. Equal opportunity ridicule. CPI shockwaves, shutdown fallout, crypto reactions. It all hit today, and we're about to break it down. Let's get into it.
You're listening to the SENB Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, mission status. Government funded, markets back, and your portfolio's detox coffee is brewed. According to the AP, Donald Trump just signed the bill late last night, ending the 43-day government shutdown. Federal workers will be paid retroactively and services resume. That's right. The longest shutdown in U.S. history is over. Both parties claim victory. Republicans say they held the line. Democrats say we'll carry on the fight. Meanwhile, Americans say, great, now what? From Reuters, global markets responded with relief. Gold jumped almost 3%, Asian equities climbed, and the reopening trade is on. So what does that mean for you? In theory, less uncertainty, more data flow, and a better environment for risk assets. In practice, prices don't care about your theory. They care about actual clicks, trades, and headlines. But here's the twist. Investopedia reports that nearly all major U.S. indexes fell sharply today. The Dow down 1.5%, S&P 500 down 1.7%, Nasdaq down 2.4%, despite the funding deal. So yes, you celebrate the bailout, the market celebrates something else entirely. They're like rebel kids who showed up to class only to knock over the desks anyway. On the crypto side, Bitcoin dipped again, altcoins took a breather, and traders are positioning ahead of the inflation announcement. Liquidity is thin, the risk-off mood creeps in, and the market's mood is less let's go and more okay, maybe. Bottom line, shutdown end is good, but the broader theme is still data, inflation, and central bank reaction. The environment just set the table. Now the meal is about to be served. All right, next up, the CPI results just in, how they landed, and what it means for all the risk assets. Stick with me.
You're listening to the SENB Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, here's where the rubber meets the road. The inflation numbers, or in today's case, the inflation numbers might not exist. According to Reuters, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, says no data collection occurred for October's CPI report due to the long government shutdown, meaning October data will either be skipped or subject to gaps. That's right. The most watched print of the month is officially questionable. The shutdown didn't just halt services, it hit the data machines too. So traders are left asking, was inflation tame or just invisible? Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve and markets were expecting a clean number. Instead, they got a data vacuum. Bloomberg warns this could hurt policy credibility and widen uncertainty. The upside? If numbers don't exist, you've got no bad surprise. The downside? You've got no good surprise either. From a market standpoint, no CPI today equals no clear direction. Risk assets can still rally on relief, shutdown over, but they're also vulnerable because there's nothing solid to build on. The BLS schedule shows October's CPI was slated for November 13th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, formally. But given collection issues, that looks unlikely. What does this mean for the Fed? We're data dependent, they'll say. But if data is absent, what are they really depending on? For crypto, this is a wild card. If CPI hits and is cool, risk on. If CPI hits and is hot, risk off. If CPI doesn't hit, you get chaos on. And crypto loves chaos on. My advice, if you're holding risk assets, tighten stops, expect noise, don't bet on clarity. Next up, we'll zoom back into crypto markets and see how the players are positioning in this ambiguity. Because when data fails, sentiment becomes the only thing moving price.
A treasure hunt beneath the data seeds, fortune coded in these blockchain keys.
You're listening to the SENB Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, let's talk crypto, because if stocks are confused, crypto is having a full-blown identity crisis. CoinDesk reports that Bitcoin is stuck, hovering around the $101,000 to $102,000 range, dipping earlier in the morning on CPI uncertainty, then bouncing slightly on the shutdown headlines. Nothing dramatic, just the market pacing back and forth like a guy waiting for a text back. Here's the theme. Nobody wants to take a strong position without CPI, but nobody wants to miss a move either. So what you get is sideways chop and those useless little green candles that scream, "Don't get excited." Crypto Slate notes that open interest in BTC futures is at a 6-month high, meaning institutions are absolutely gearing up for a move. They just don't know which direction. Big bets, small conviction. Perfect storm for volatility. Retail traders hate this. Institutions live for it. Altcoins aren't faring much better. Solana DEX volume is down over 10%, and meme coin liquidity has dried up faster than campaign promises after election week. ETH dropped back near $3,000. XRP gave up yesterday's gains. Cardano exists somewhere in the background, still being Cardano. Meanwhile, analysts are calling this a sentiment vacuum, which is analysts speak for, "We don't know either, please stop asking." Exchanges are reporting light inflows and slightly heavier outflows, not panic selling, just cautious de-risking. People aren't leaving the casino, they're just stepping back from the table. Market Pulse says institutional desks are waiting for clarity on CPI and clarity on federal spending now that the shutdown is over. Both affect liquidity and risk appetite. Crypto lives on liquidity the way HSC riders live on espresso. And here's the weird thing. Sometimes no data creates bigger moves than bad data. When the CPI is missing or incomplete, everything becomes narrative-driven. You'll see influencers declare victory. Macro writers publish 19-tweet threads with charts they don't understand, and traders make decisions based on their cousin's WhatsApp group. And that's how bag holding happens. So yeah, today is positioning, not predicting. When we're missing a core data point, the best strategy is usually caution, or doing nothing. Coming up next, the midday shutdown spin cycle, the hot takes coming from the left and the right, and we're roasting all sides equally. This one's fun. Stay with me.
You're listening to the SENB Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, CPI confusion is one thing, but the shutdown ending is the other circus in town. Last night, President Trump signed the bill that officially ended the 43-day government shutdown, the longest in U.S. history. Great job, everyone. Truly record-breaking dysfunction. AP News reports the signing happened after a frantic scramble in Congress, with both sides claiming the win while quietly hoping no one looks too closely at the scoreboard. Let's break down the spin cycle, because the takes today have been hotter than your third espresso shot. Politico says Democrats are furious with their own leadership, arguing they got rolled, folded, and lost leverage. Yeah, nothing says unity like a circular firing squad at 9 a.m. They're calling it a strategic setback, which is political PR for, "We didn't get what we wanted. Please don't yell at us on social media." And ironically, the shutdown was partly about healthcare funding and ACA tax credits, which still didn't get addressed and are now punted into December. So the Democratic message today has been, "We didn't win, but technically we didn't lose, if you squint." If this were a boxing match, the announcer would say, "And in a stunning non-decision, both fighters left the ring to check their approval ratings." Conservative outlets like Fox News are framing the end of the shutdown as a Republican victory, saying Democrats blinked first. According to their spin, the GOP held strong, preserved fiscal discipline, and delivered a win for the American people, which is fascinating because they also spent 43 days saying, "We're hurting real Americans, but stay tuned. This will pay off eventually." And as for the bill they passed, it funds the government temporarily, the same way a Band-Aid fixes a severed power line. Republicans today are basically saying we won because they lost, which is bold considering the country was the one that took most of the damage. For real Americans, this shutdown was a 43-day masterclass in congressional cosplay. Federal workers didn't get paid. Flight delays spiked. Aid programs paused. Data collection broke. CPI got scrambled. The economy didn't win. People didn't win. Congress didn't solve the problem. They just agreed to stop making it worse for at least a few weeks. It's like arguing whether the fire was extinguished by the left hose or the right hose. Meanwhile, the House is ash. So here's the real story. Democrats and Republicans both spun this as a win. Neither side actually fixed the underlying fight, and everything will flare back up in December. The only truly bipartisan agreement today is that the shutdown ending makes good headlines and bad long-term policy planning. All right, coming up next, the community mailbag, where we answer your questions about CPI chaos, shutdown fallout, and maybe even Tina Bean's whereabouts. Stay with me.
You're listening to the SENB Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, it's time for the Community Mailbag, the segment powered entirely by your questions, caffeine, and whatever chaos the markets dropped on us today. Let's crack these open. First up, Julian from Boston writes, Sen, if CPI didn't get fully collected, how are we supposed to trade inflation today? Julian, excellent question. The answer is you don't. You guess. When the Bureau of Labor Statistics misses its surveys because Congress forgot to pay the light bill, you're not trading CPI, you're trading vibes. My advice? Stop trying to outsmart missing data. Even the Fed can't. Next, Brianna from Phoenix asks, do you think tomorrow or Monday will have more volatility because of today's incomplete CPI report? Brianna? Yes, 100%. Markets absolutely hate uncertainty. An incomplete CPI is like showing up to a job interview wearing only half the suit. You'll likely see wider spreads, sharper candles, and a few traders crying into their espresso shots. It's okay. We all go through it. Marco Online writes, Shutdown is over. Does that mean we can trust the next few data releases? Marco, no. It means agencies are back at work, but after 43 days of backlog, the next few releases are basically going to be held together with duct tape and optimism. Expect revisions, expect delays, expect analysts pretending it's all fine. Angela from Seattle asks, did anyone actually win the shutdown? Angela, the only winner was the company selling folding chairs to reporters covering Congress at 3 a.m. Democrats didn't win, Republicans didn't win, the American people definitely didn't win. The real winner was meme pages. And finally, Luis Online asks, is Tina Bean coming back tomorrow for the CPI Fallout episode? Luis, she might. Right now, she's in HR arguing with the finance AI about whether sarcasm should be considered a taxable asset. But yes, she will be back soon. And trust me, she has opinions. All right, incredible questions today. Seriously, top-tier chaos. If you want your question featured on tomorrow's show, submit it through Proof of Thought using your SENB token. The best ones get airtime, the worst ones get laminated and placed in our office museum of ideas that should never happen again. Coming up next, token plug, community updates, and the CPI Fallout preview.
You're listening to the SENB Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, before we wrap up today's CPI without CPI extravaganza, let's talk about what powers this show behind the scenes, the SENB token and the Proof of Thought system, which is now officially live. If you're new here, here's how it works. SENB is the community token that fuels the Beheroverse, the radio show, the characters, the community playlist, the live questions, and yes, the influence you have over what gets covered in episodes like this. And now, with the Proof of Thought system, you can submit takes, vote on topics, and send your own questions straight into the show pipeline. Not just comments, actual structured submissions that get logged, ranked, and reviewed. We even have a leaderboard. And yes, bragging rights are absolutely part of the economy. The vision here is simple, a community-driven media network built around crypto culture, caffeine, and comedy, where the listeners help shape the content, not just consume it. You can jump in anytime at senbheromedia.com. The token's live, the platform's live, and so is the portal for Proof of Thought submissions. Grab some SENB, submit something clever, and you might be the next voice on this show. All right, time for final thoughts. Today was a weird one. Shutdown ended, data didn't show, markets panicked, stocks fell, crypto drifted, and analysts tried to pretend they understood what was happening. Tomorrow, we'll cover the CPI fallout, whether the BLS releases a reconstructed dataset, or whether markets simply trade on instinct and lunacy, as they do best. I'm SENB Hero, and this was the SENB Daily Brief, CPI Non-Report Edition, Thursday, November 13th, 2025. Stay caffeinated, stay skeptical, and brace yourselves. Tomorrow's gonna be spicy. The SENB Daily Brief is a production of SENB Hero Media in collaboration with Whole Shot Coffee, coffee that fuels champions. Written and hosted by yours truly, SENB Hero. Production editing and scheduling handled by Maya Valencia, who somehow keeps me on time, caffeinated, and occasionally polite. Original theme music composed and produced by Paul Hahn, the community legend whose beats hit harder than a Fed rate hike. Research support provided by the SENB community. Proof that sarcasm and spreadsheets can coexist. For more shows, merch, and on-chain chaos, visit senbheromedia.com. Thanks for tuning in. Stay caffeinated. And remember, if it's not in the brief, it probably wasn't bullish anyway.
Set my wallet free.